Hello, fictional. Welcome to the What If Issei. Today we are gonna see What If Issei's Reality Unraveled. Part 1. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. Prologue. Boo. But you, where are you going? It was the question that Issei wished he could take back. It was the moment after he and his master, Rias Gremory, spoke to the Lady Phoenix regarding her daughter Ravel attending Kuo Academy. After speaking to Lady Phoenix, Rias headed straight towards the door, which Issei stopped her by simply asking where was she going. Ice, will you protect me? Rias asked without looking back at him. Why do you ask such a thing suddenly? Issei thought to himself uncomfortably. I don't know, but my answer is obvious. Of course, I will protect Butchu. Issei decided to respond with great dedication. And Asia? Rias asked. Eh? Yes, I will also protect Asia. Though he was off-guarded at first, Issei still replied with the same enthusiasm as before. And Akeno? Akeno-san? That is obvious. But what happened, suddenly asking me such a thing? Issei still doesn't get it. He doesn't get what his master's intention are at all. Hey Ice. Yes. Do you? What am I? Who am I? Rias asked with a lower tone. It wasn't that Issei understood the meaning of Rias' question, but he hesitated to answer it. If he answered it poorly, it might have hurt the relationship he has with Rias, but at the same time Rias needed an answer from him. So decided to answer it the best way he could. To me Butchu is Butchu and the moment he said that, Baka. She scolded him mixed with a sound of her crying. Rias rushes away from the spot and she left the clubroom. Rias Onasama. Asia goes after Butchu. Asia turns to Issei after she reaches the door. Her eyes are soaked with tears. She was crying. Ai-san. You are horrible. It's too much. Why can't you? Why can't you understand One-Isama's feelings? Saying that, Asia goes after Butchu. Having Asia also say that to him, Issei just stood there lost and dumbfounded. Wait a sec. What's the meaning of this? Why is Asia also mad at me? Issei pondered with a bewildered expression on his face. That wasn't right, Ice-kun. Kiba makes a sigh while nodding his head to the side. Not right as in what? Ice asked in hope to figure out what just happened. That, precisely. Geez, you are so I can understand very well what the girls are going through. Kiba put his fingers on his forehead as he let out another disappointed sigh. Exactly. It's natural for Rias and Asia-chan to get mad. Akeno-san concurred with frustrated tone. Even I, who is dense at these sorts of things, thought you were a bit off, Ice. Zenobia looked at Ice with cold eyes that were half closed. Moo. Ice-kun, sure is a no-no. Poor Riasan. Even Irina was mad. You're the worst. Kaneko said her infamous quote in the coldest way possible. I don't know what I did wrong. I just don't know. Ice began to feel uncomfortable, confused, and pressured from the cold demeanor his friends were giving him. Maybe if he talked to Rias, they could handle things peacefully and resolve everything. But before he could even try to go, he was quickly stopped by Akeno. The current Ice-kun will just hurt her more even if you go after her, so don't. Issei felt appalled from the inside from what Akeno just said straight up his face so heartlessly. He never seen this cold side from the likes of Akeno. Hey Gasper. Am I really bad here? Issei quickly turned to Gasper for support. Surely Gasper was going to help Issei out. For everything Issei has done for his young junior, Gasper should at least back him up for not being the villain here. But he was wrong. Yes, I think you are very bad, Gasper said apologetically while twitching his body. Issei quickly fell down. Then Ravel asks while panicking. This is my mother's and my fault, right? I'm sorry. Is it Ravel's fault? Issei thought to himself pathetically. It seemed like Butchu tried to leave after the communication between the Phoenix mother and child. Akeno-san places her hand on Ravel's shoulders. Ravel-chan doesn't have to worry about it. Ice-kun's the most at fault here because he never tried to think about the crucial thing between Rias and himself until now. Akeno-san cheers her up like that and she started to prepare for tea after urging Ravel to sit on the sofa. Soon enough everyone began to go back to their regular selves while ignoring Issei, who's still not sure what was going on. Man, why is everyone acting like that? What do they want me to do? Issei complained to himself as he sat down on a bench by playground. After what occurred in the club room, everyone but Issei continued to prepare for the school festival under Akeno-san's supervision. The atmosphere of that situation was settled down after Akeno-san took responsibility to find Rias and Asia. Issei himself decided to leave the campus to clear his head on what just happened. So far it wasn't going well for him. What happened after the talk with Lady Phoenix and the night before during the sauna incident? Rias was acting differently all of a sudden, and what made things worse for him was that everyone was taking Rias' side and putting the blame on him. But why, Issei wondered to himself. Lately he began to notice that not only Rias but her mother and everyone else that was around is seeking something from him. And he knew it was something that has to do with his relationship with Rias. Well, it was what Akeno told him about how inconsiderate he was about the relationship between him and Rias. The thought that Issei remembered thinking about before the meeting came back to him. In his head were two major points. He didn't understand what Rias was feeling, and he hurt her feelings without realizing it. The other was something he couldn't bring himself to think any further about, but decided to anyway. The other thing he was thinking was maybe Rias might have romantic feelings for him. It would explain a lot. Like why she ended up moving into his house or how she shows him affection differently from Gasper and Kiba, who also her male servants. He thought about the kisses she gave him straight to his lips and the French kisses they shared. The thought of their kiss brought a warm smile to his face. He first thought that the love Rias gave him was the same love she shared towards all of her servants and thought she'd done stuff to him because he was younger than her and thought it was a way to connect her with the guy members of her peerage and it was a special service. But if that was the case, she would have done the same thing she'd done to Issei, to Kiba and Gasper. There was an obvious difference how she treated Issei with the rest of the guys of her peerage. Ever since the night Issei saved Rias from getting married to Razor Phoenix, she quickly became fixated on love. She had put so much pure and innocent obsession into it, which Issei thought it was normal, since she always dreamed of marrying the man who loves her for herself and not for her heritage. Another thought came to him. It was the physical contact she had with him. If Rias, who has pure thoughts regarding the relationship between man and woman, would do such seductive actions to him, was it because he was her adorable servant? No, she wouldn't do something like that. Rias has a strong sense towards her chastity. Then here came the next topic that Issei didn't want to explore the possibility. The topic was regarding whether or not if Rias actually has feelings for him. If that was the case, then her attitude towards him matched up, but no. There is no way. She's my master. I'm her servant. Her servant devil. I'm Rias Gremory's pawn but if Butchu does indeed like me, then the forehead of Issei began to sweat as he goes into deeper thought of the idea of Rias liking him. I like Butchu. Also as a master, but more than that as a single girl. During these 6 months, I have seen many sides of her, the magnificent side, her noble side, her glamorous side, her gentle side, her angry side, the part where she has big eye, her cute side, the part where she has a smooth skin, her spoiled side, and the part where she is like my one Isama, yet she acts as the same age as me, and then I started see her as a normal girl and, to him, she was the ideal woman. He wanted to go out with her. He wanted to surpass the master-servant relationship and date her as man and woman. It's what Issei dream of. It's what he wished for. It's what he truly desire. If she truly shared the same feelings as him, then it would bring Issei a greatest joy than being a harem king. I'm in love with her. I love her. I've always loved her. I just love Butchu and I want to confess to her. He started to have weird sweat coming from his face. His hands began to shake as well. Everyone in the park began to notice Issei, who looked like he was going to have some sort of nervous breakdown. But what would I do if I'm wrong? The relationship we currently have will end. I don't want that. Ufufufu. The park quickly became abandoned and Issei wasn't able to detect anyone's presence nearby, but he was able to hear a voice. He quickly snapped out of his train and thought and got off the bench. Do you really think that girl really wants you? Who's there? Issei asked loudly across the park. Ahahaha, what you desire is nothing more than a fantasy, the voice said. If you ask for more, the precious relationship you have now will definitely end. Issei widened his eyes from what the voice just said. Could the voice be right? If Ice asked more from the relationship with Rias, could it possibly end badly for them, which Rias ends up rejecting him? Yeah, it would definitely turn out like that. The voice said with a ridiculed tone. Issei grinned his teeth in irritation. Shut up. You don't know anything. Oh? Don't I? A gentle breeze came by the park as a girl appeared within the thin air in front of Issei. The attire she's wearing consisted of a short black dress with a small, light purple jacket on top. Issei widened his eyes in realization of who the girl was. Rainer. Issei gasped. He couldn't believe it. The first woman that Issei genuinely loved. The same woman who manipulated him with his feelings and attempted to take his and Asia's life. The same woman who Ice hit with his own hands in rage. The same woman who was killed by the current woman that Issei fell in love with. She should dead, but Issei can't see her right in front of him. What's wrong? Rainer asked with a sneer on her face. Don't you miss me? I don't want a filthy low-class devil like you talking to me. At times he wondered if it was alright for him to talk with the girls from the occult research club. Ahahaha. Yeah, you are right. It was a very royal date. Thanks to it, I was very bored. When he goes shopping with the girls, he wonders if they ever got bored being with him. I don't want a rotten brat like you calling my name. Issei want to say his master's name. He really does, but, Ice-kun. Please save me. This devil is trying to kill me. I love you. I love you so much. That's why, let's defeat this devil together. She begged for her life right in front of him. He could have spared her, but at that time it was proper for Rainer to be killed. She did such horrible things to Asia, and she even killed her once. How boring. Rainer frowned out of boredom. I can't believe after all this time, you haven't changed a bit. Change? Issei wondered what Rainer was even trying to say. What is that supposed to mean? Issei asked defensively. He summoned his boosted gear and began the countdown to enter his balance breaker. I changed. I'm stronger and smarter than before. I'm more than powerful enough to kill you on my own. I wasn't referring to that. Rainer sighed. Do I need to repeat myself? You haven't changed since the last time I saw you. You are still the same gullible idiot you were even after you were reincarnated by the cheat devil. What is Rainer talking about? Issei changed a lot over these months after becoming a devil. He matured a lot physically and mentally to some extent for the last 6 months and accomplished a lot things that Rainer couldn't do on her own. Issei fought against many foes and even defeated an evil god and survived the fight against the true Longinus. So what do she mean that Issei didn't change at all? What could Issei have missed that the last person he wanted alive was able to pick up? What was thing he was so blind to notice? What blind? The word blind repeated over in Issei's mind multiple times. Okay, Issei admitted that he wasn't the sharpest person and is nothing more than a power idiot who goes with his emotions. There were many times he got lost that he needed someone to help him explain things. Everyone in the occult research club always get mad at him for being slow. Could it be that is the case? No, wait, it isn't either. If it's being slow, then what does it has to do with Rainer? What does being blind have to do with Rainer? Why does a manipulative and deceptive bitch who has done nothing more than use people for her benefit? Then it came him. No, it couldn't be, Issei murmured to himself in denial. He put his hands on his head as he shook it while struggling to get the idea out of his head. She couldn't, could she? No, I don't want to believe it. Was it possible that Rias was manipulating him from the very beginning? No, she couldn't. She wasn't the type of person who would deceive others. She isn't one of those snobbish high-class devils who treats their devils like there is nothing to them. She and her clan cherish their servants and give them so much love and affection. The love and affection she shows to her peerage wants to make them to push hard and fight for her. No. She wasn't that type of person. Issei thought. She could never stoop that low, could she? What if all those times Rias has had physical contact and the kisses she shared with him was part of her plan to keep him under her leash? And all those times she doesn't want Issei to get along with the other girls from the occult research club. She always claiming that Issei was hers, along with his chastity, and none of the girls could have him. Did Rias fear that if Issei fell in love with some other girl, he would rather protect and listen to her rather than his own master? It kind of made sense if he thought about it. Rias had hit the jackpot the moment she realized that Issei was the Red Emperor Dragon. She treated him special because she knew that Issei will do anything for her in return. She doesn't allow him to fall in relationship with other girls because she knew she'll lose her most powerful weapon. She was willing to allow low-class devil like Issei to touch her because she knew that it would give him a power-up even if she has to endure the taboo nickname of Switch Princess. And if Rias was truly manipulating, then could it be that her behavior lately was nothing more than an act? Could it be possible that Rias only wanted Issei to show his love and she in return reciprocate his love and order Issei push harder for his match against Sarayer Bale? No, Issei got on his knees as tears run down his face and fall down to the ground. His heart is filled with nothing more than great sorrow. He wasn't sure what hurt him more. The fact that Rias actually manipulated him or that he fell for the same trick twice. Ahahaha. So you finally figured it out. Rainer sneered. You've been duped all this time. That bitch is no better than I am. No wait, she's a lot worse than I ever was. Hahaha. Issei grinned his teeth as his blood pressure began to rise. Surge of adrenaline circulated throughout his body as his eyes sharpened into a murderous glare. His body began to emit a red ominous aura as Issei began to pant hazardously. He stood up with the scale mail attached to him. Partner. Calm down. You'll go berserk if you keep this up. Issei could hear the voice of Drag, the spirit within his boosted gear, but Issei ignored his partner's plead. I, who is about to awaken, am the heavenly dragon who has stolen the principles of domination from God. I laugh at the infinite and I grieve at the dream. I shall become the red dragon of domination and I shall sink you to the depths of the crimson uak. Before he had the chance to even finish his chant, Issei coughed out blood as he felt a sharp pain pierce through his chest. He slowly rolled his eyes down to see a tip of a sword sticking out of his chest. But he rolled his eyes back up to see the trainer was nowhere in sight before his body collapsed on the ground. His vision began to go blurry as Issei began to reflect on what he was going to do. As everything around Issei began to blacken, last thing he saw was a magic circle coming out from the ground. Biba began to notice something wrong with Gasper ever since they left campus to go to the supplies. He first took notice on the way to the shopping district where Gasper was lost in a train of thought. Gasper was so distracted in his thoughts that he nearly got run over twice on the way to the shopping district, where Kiba had to step in and stop his junior from walking into traffic. When Gasper snapped out of his thoughts and Kiba had asked him what just happened, he goes back to his old timid and panicky self and apologized for not being more vigilant. After making sure that his young friend wasn't zoning out anymore on their way to the shipping district, Kiba decided not to pry on what the young bishop was thinking earlier. It wasn't till after leaving the shopping district and heading back to the Kuo Academy is when Kiba began to see the same deep and thought look Gasper had on his way to the shopping district. "Is there something bothering you, Gasper-kun?" Kiba finally asked, causing the two boys stop walking. "Huh?" Gasper shook his head as he was snapped back into reality. He looked over at his senpai with uneasy smile on his face. "No, Kiba-senpai. I'm fine." "You're sure? You've been like this ever since we left Kuo Academy," Kiba pointed out. "If there is something that is bothering you, I think it's a good idea to share it with someone." Gasper averted his eyes away from his senpai, looking a bit queasy. His body twitched in insecurity as he bit his lip. He looked back up at Kiba with introverted look on his face. "Well, there is something on my mind but I can't say it." "Why?" Kiba asked, raising a brow in curiosity. "I don't want Kiba-senpai or anyone think less of me," Gasper confessed sheepishly, looking back down at the ground. "Is it perchance the rating game match with Saraerg Bale and his peerage?" It was the only thing Kiba could think of. Ever since knowing that the match between their master Rias and her cousin Saraerg will have no restriction, Gasper became tense as each day has gone by. The young blonde bishop already felt that he was a liability to the team since he couldn't control his powers and can't do much on his own. "No." Gasper shook his head to the side. "It's not that." "Then what is it then?" Kiba asked concernedly. Kiba kneeled down to his junior's height and placed his hands on the Gasper's shoulder. "I promise I won't look down at you if you tell me what's eating you alive." "You sure?" Gasper asked back for security. "Of course," Kiba assured him with a calm smile. "Oh, okay, I'll tell you," Gasper said before swallowing his own saliva down his throat. He cleared his own throat and tugged the collar of his uniform before he talked. "Well, I was thinking that." The young damper devil hybrid began to stutter nervously as he averted his eyes away from his senpai again. "It's alright," Kiba assured him. "Remember, I won't think bad of you." Gasper looked up at Kiba before taking in a big breath. Gasper then said what was on his mind in one big shout. "I think everyone in the club room was too harsh with Issei senpai." Kiba widened his eyes in shock from what Gasper said to him. "We were too harsh with Ice-kun." "I'm sorry." Gasper puts his arms around his face, like he was trying to shield himself as he apologized and kneeled down to the ground. "I've been feeling guilty ever since then." Kiba looked at Gasper stupefied, unsure how to reply back to his young junior. For a moment he thought that Gasper was a delusional for saying that, but now that he thought about it, could it be possible that he and the rest of the occult research club members were a bit rough with Issei? Issei deserved to be scolded. He was too inconsiderate with Ria's feelings, and everyone knew it. At the moment it felt right to rebuke Issei for being so ignorant. So why did Gasper, who didn't sided with Issei during that time, felt guilty for not siding with him? "Hey Gasper-kun, is it alright if I ask you something?" Kiba requested. "Huh? What is it?" Gasper asked, slowly putting his arms down. "Why did you think that we're too harsh on Ice-kun?" "Well, I felt that we're bullying Ai-senpai, ganging up on him. The way we treated him kind of remind me how I was treated back home." Gasper confessed with eyes saddened and slightly wet. Plus when Butchu asked Ai-senpai how he felt about her, I saw a familiar look in his eyes. The look of fear. It was like Ice-kun was too scared to reply honestly with Butchu. "Scared?" Kiba pondered, putting his hand underneath his chin. Why would Ice-kun be scared of confessing his feelings with Rias Butchu? Kiba knew that Issei held strong love and high affection for Rias and vice versa. So why would Issei be afraid of telling his feelings to a woman who's going to reciprocate those feelings back? Wait a minute. Could it possible that the reason why Ice-kun is ignorant with all the girls' feelings because he was scared all this time? That means. Gasper cocked his head puzzled, becoming concerned on what his senpai was thinking deeply about. Gasper reached his hand out toward Kiba with the intention of tugging his sleeve to grab his attention, but before he could. "Oh god. How can we be so ignorant?" Kiba smacked himself in the hand when he shouted, making poor Gasper cringed in fear. The reason why Ice-kun hasn't responded to the other girl's feelings is because he was traumatized by his first girlfriend Rainer. The thought of the fallen angel who toyed with his best friend's emotions brought a foul taste to Kiba's mouth. Kiba still remembered how Rainer tortured Issei both physical and emotionally. It's no wonder Issei was hesitant and scared to move his relationship with the girls. But what bothered Kiba the most that he, the self-proclaimed best friend of Issei, wasn't able to pick up his fear of intimacy with women. "Kiba-senpai?" The blonde bishop stuttered in confusion. "How could none of us realize this soon?" Kiba muttered bitterly as his cell phone began to ring. He took his phone out and answered it. "Hello? Hyoudou-kun, it's me Akeno." The caller identify herself at the other hand. We have a problem. Issei has gone missing. Missing? When? Kiba asked. I don't know. Maybe some time after you and Gasper-kun left, but all we know that Issei-kun is no longer on campus. Akeno said worriedly. Ice-kun isn't answering his cell phone, and we searched everywhere for him. We? Me, Asia-chan, Kaneko-chan, Zenobia, and Arena. Akeno explained. Everyone felt a bit guilty regarding how we treated Ice-kun and wanted to consult with him properly regarding his relationship with Rias and the rest of us. Kiba could clearly hear the tone of regret within Akeno's tone. Perchance she and the others are aware of Issei's fear of intimacy too. But Kiba needed to be sure though. Hey, Akeno-san. Perchance have you ever noticed something wrong with Ice-kun? Kiba asked. You mean his fear of intimacy with other women? Akeno asked back with bittersweet tone. So you figured it out too, huh? We couldn't figured why Ice-kun wasn't able to handle relationships with the girls of the club till Asia figured it out. Kiba could hear Akeno's voice starting to shake, like she was going to cry. God. You know there were times when Ice-kun looks at us, sometimes he look at us with frightened eyes. I didn't understand why at the beginning, but I finally understood. Are we terrible people, Hyoudou-kun? Kiba didn't know whether to respond yes or no. In retrospect, there are times the girls of the club have put Issei in uncomfortable situations. They teased him, used him, treated him for granted at times. But it was for good intentions, right? Let's not think about this right now. Kiba said, changing the subject. Our priority is to find Ice-kun. Me and Gasper-kun will search the town. You and the others stay where you are in case of Ice-kun coming back. Alright. Akeno obliged. Just be careful and good luck. You too. Kiba said before hanging up and turning towards Gasper. Bad news, Gasper-kun. It seems that Ice-kun has gone missing from the club room and the girls are getting worried. So let's fan out and Kiba didn't have the chance to finish his sentence as the atmosphere throughout the entire town became dark and tense, that gravity itself was pulling everything to the ground. Wait, this feeling, Kiba thought, recognizing something familiar within the atmosphere. The last time I felt something like this was when Ice-kun gone berserk. The memories of his best friend going to berserk flashed in Kiba's eyes. Kiba-senpai. Gasper cried, trembling in fear as he sees his senior dropped everything in his hands and running in godlike speed in the other direction. Gasper fell on his knees as he see nothing but trails of dust floating in the direction where Kiba has run. Don't leave me. Why now? Why now of all places? Kiba pondered as he rushed to the direction where the tense atmosphere came from. He created a holy demonic sword in his right hands as he came up by the park. Why are you going berserk, Ice-kun? Kiba arrived to the park with the fear of slaying his best friend, but before he realized it, someone has already beaten him to it. The menacing and terrifying aura that Kiba detected not too long ago vanished into thin air, and Issei was nowhere to be found by the time Kiba stepped into the park. The only thing he was able to notice that's peculiar was nothing more than a puddle of blood. Can't sleep. Issei regained conscious in his luxurious and spacious bedroom, where he noticed 3 familiar individuals resting on his bed. They were Asia, Rias, and even himself. Issei noticed that Asia was sleeping to her side away from his doppelganger on his bed while Rias was approaching him. Seeing the scene felt familiar to Issei. Like he went through this before. Ah, that's right. Issei remembered. This was the night right before the Occult Research Club, the Student Council, and Vali's gang fought against the evil god Loki and Fenrir. Akeno had a bright expression. You did something to her, right? Rias asked innocently. Issei's doppelganger became petrified like he was caught in the scene of a crime. We didn't have sex. Issei let out a small light smile as Rias pinched his doppelganger's cheek and looked at him with half-opened eyes. I didn't ask to hear that. You really didn't do it? She asked concernedly. Yes. I'm still a virgin. She stopped pinching the doppelganger's cheek after hearing that. Issei saw the relieved look his doppelganger had as he rubbed the cheek that Rias pinched. He then watched Rias grabbing the doppelganger's hand that he used to rub his cheek and placed that hand on her breast. Issei's doppelganger winced by feeling the smooth, elastic, soft, and enormous sensation of his master's breast. Even Issei, who isn't touching Ria's breast, can feel the sensation in his own hands. But a trail of blood came out from the doppelganger's nose as he stuttered. My heart is beating fast, right? Of course it is. We are going to fight against a god. I also feel nervous. Rias muttered gently with her face turning slightly red. I certainly can. Issei's doppelganger replied nervously. But why are you letting me touch your oppai? Ifufu. During the event in the underworld, I promised you that I will let you touch them, remember? Also I thought that this was the best way to make you relax. You can't go to sleep because you are nervous, right? She sure knew everything. She remembered the promise she had with Issei and kept it. And she was right. Touching her breast did calm Issei down a lot as well. The doppelganger looked less tense now that he's touching Ria's breast. You will be fighting in the front line, you have a crucial role, a fight against a god, so you are worried whether you can accomplish that. You can't go to sleep because you are worried about them, right? Again, she was right. Rias was able to read him like a book. Yes. The doppelganger confessed. These roles are scary. It's an honor, but I feel uneasy because I don't know if I can fulfill these roles. I also wonder what would happen to everyone if we fail tomorrow. I feel uneasy due to being nervous and the pressure on me. The doppelganger blurted out the weak thoughts Issei never wanted to say to Rias. Why couldn't Issei confess these feelings to other people? Was it because he was truly in love with Rias that he was able to confess anything to her? Maybe touching her breast made him tell the truth or something, though Issei did felt safe feeling his master's embrace. It's okay. You can say those things in front of me. I love ice, even including those parts about you. When Issei heard that, everything around him began to crack. From the ceiling to the floor and everything within him began to crack like glass, even Rias, Asia, and Ice's doppelganger. Love? What kind of love is she referring to? Ice wondered, placing a hand to his chest. With that same hand on his chest, Issei clutched onto his shirt and fell on his knees as the entire room shattered into pieces, turning into nothing more than a white spacious plain. Damn it, Issei wailed, slamming his free hand into the ground. Is it true? Have I been played all this time by another woman that I fall for? This is how I'm going to be is for the of my life. Being manipulated by other women that I fall for. You lived an unfortunate life. An elderly voice whispered. Huh? Issei heard from the voice from behind and turned around to see scrawny figure dressed in a black cloak. Well, you are the Sekiryuite after all. Living the life of misfortune is part of the deal of becoming the Sekiryuite. The mysterious figure asked. Well, you should at least consider yourself lucky. Most people would kill to have the kind of relationship that you had with the Gunmare devil. Relationship? Issei clutched his hand into fist and began to grind his teeth. Shut up, you sick bastard. You think this is funny? Do you what it feels like to have your heart crushed by the person you cherished the most? By the person you'll do anything for? By the person you're willing to give up everything to save her? Tell me. Did you ever have that kind of person? Yes. The cloak figure responded. I've fallen in love before and was fooled at the end just like you. It's a shame, isn't it? Issei was left speechless by the man's words. He wasn't sure whether to trust the man's word regarding the issue, but he decided to let it go. Alright, I'll take your word on it. Issei said skeptically. So where are we? A special realm, the cloak figure answered. A special realm where my domain is. A special realm, huh? Issei said, looking around the white spacious world. So why did you bring me here anyway? I brought you here to save you. The cloak figure answered. Save me? Issei raised a brow. Save me from what? Yourself. The cloak figure explained. With a snap of his finger, the white spacious realm transformed itself into the same park that Issei was in not too long ago, where Issei saw another doppelganger with enraged expression. What? This is Issei quickly recognized the scene. The boosted gear flashed on the doppelganger body as he became to speak. I, who is about to awaken, am the heavenly dragon who has stolen the principles of domination from God. I laugh at the infinite and I grieve at the dream. I shall become the red dragon of domination and I shall sink you to the depths of the crimson uak. The chant of the doppelganger god ceased before it was finished by a sudden blade sticking out from the chest. In that instant, the doppelganger onto his knees as the scale mail armor materialized from doppelganger body. The doppelganger looked down at his chest to see the blade before his entire body collapsed on the ground. Oh god, Issei gasped before covering his mouth. That's right, I almost entered Juggernaut Drive. I could have killed everyone in Kuo Town if I wasn't stopped. Well, it's a good thing that you were. The cloak figure said, snapping his finger to return the park back to the white spacious realm. If you weren't, this world will have been plunged into chaos. Chaos, huh? Issei could imagine what happened if he did enter Juggernaut Drive. His whole town would have been blown into smithereens in seconds. Countless innocent lives would have been lost just because Issei couldn't keep his cool. And on top of that, it would have happened in the human world. The humans who aren't involved, the supernatural world would go hysterical. False accusations would happen between nations, and war might break loose with the humans themselves, or even the supernatural world Issei lived in. So you brought me after that? Issei said to confirm, which the cloak figure nodded. Okay, you did that. So what now? Well, since you no longer have the urge to go berserk, you can go home. A red magic circle appeared right on the cloak's figure right side. Home? What home? After what almost happened, there was no way Issei could face anyone in the occult research club. They, the student council, and even Azazel and Roswas, have already detected the dark essences of him going into Juggernaut Drive the moment he began the chant. If Issei go back home, he'll have to tell everyone and give them an explanation why he almost gone berserk. But in the tense beating in his heart, Issei knew that there was no way he was ready to face any of them, especially Rias. Or you could take an alternative. The mysterious figure offered as a blue magic circle appeared on his left side. Alternative? Issei asked, walking up to mysterious figure and stopping right in between the two magic circles. Issei looked straight down directly at the blue magic circle. He looked back up at the cloak figure. What is this alternative? Let's say that the blue magic circle sends you away from the reality you once knew. The cloak figure explained. You'll escape from the painful truth of your old reality and the blissful ignorance of a new one. Basically it's your ticket away from those who mocked you, who used you, who take you for nothing more than granted. Granted. Issei looked down directly at the blue magic circle tensely. That's right, everyone has taken me for granted. From Kaneko-chan using me nothing more than a piece of furniture to Zenobia wanting nothing more than my sperm to produce some superpower children to those abusive experiments, Aziz'll put me through for nothing more than for laughs. Maybe it's better off if I don't go back after all. Issei raised his foot, ready to step right on top of the blue magic circle, but stopped his foot from making a direct contact to the ground and pulled it back. But the image of Asia and Akeno appeared on Issei's mind. What about Asia and Akeno-san? Within these last 6 months of being a devil, Issei developed a unique yet special relationship with the priestess of Holy Thunder and Lightning and the Holy Maiden. Ice developed a brotherly and sisterly relationship with Asia the moment she moved into his household. Out of everyone that Issei knew, Asia had no personal motivation to gain from Issei, except for spending more time with him. And his relationship with Akeno was also similar to that. At first the relationship was nothing more than a senior student enjoying teasing and flirting with her junior student, but as time went on and their relationship developed, Issei began to realize that Akeno depended on more than he thought. She relied on him for emotional support ever since the three alliances were formed. She depended on him for courage for the raiding game against Sona Citri, and she proclaimed her love for him after he helped reconcile with her father. Akeno told him that she loved him. So have Asia. Both girls proclaimed their love to Issei. Neither of them have personal motivate except to be spoiled by him. What would happen to them if Issei does take the alternative? Yet again Issei narrowed his eyes as he imagines of what happened in the club room not long ago. The way Asia criticized him was like he was some sort of player toying with some poor girl's emotion, which Issei is not. And with Akeno, she prevented Issei from going after Rias and treated him like crap. If they did love me, they wouldn't treat it like they did. Issei walked right into the blue magic circle. I see that you finally made your decision. The cloak figure remarked. Are you sure you want to do this? Once I snap my finger, there is no going back. I'm fine, Issei assured him, letting a single tear fall down his cheek. Just get it over already. Alright, the cloak figure said, preparing to snap his fingers. Oh, by the way, I need to explain to you how this alternative works. Since you desire to escape your reality and enter a new one, you can choose the reality you desire to live in. However, there is a price you have to pay, depending on the world you have desired. The world where I desire. What kind of world do I want to live in? The possibility of what reality Issei desired is endless. He can desire the perfect paradise if he wanted to. He can have reality that he can have all the beautiful women to fall madly in love with him and do whatever he desired, including Rias. But having the thought Rias, or any girl from the occult research club, gave a stress amount of grief into Issei's heart. No, I want to live live in a world that I don't have anything to with but you, not with the occult research club, not with the three alliance. I want to be free and alone. Issei's eyes widened, realizing what reality he desired to live in. He made an unwavering expression on his face as he looked directly at the cloak figure. I know what reality I want to live in. I want to live in a reality where I never get recruited by Butchu's peerage. The world where he was never saved by that Gunmare girl, This is going to become interesting. Within the underneath of his cloak, the mysterious man smiled suspiciously. Are you sure you want to go through with living in that kind of world? The consequences of having that kind of world will personally affect your physical conditions greatly. Once I snap my finger, there is no going back. It's fine. Issei assured him. I want to get it over with. Understood, the cloak figure said, snapping his finger. The blue magic circle lit up brightly, ready to send Issei away into his new reality. Right before the magic circle did teleported Issei away, the cloak figure cried out as if he remembered something important. That's right. Before you go. I have something important to tell you. Rias Gunmare never saw you as useful servant or took you for granted. To her, you were her lover and soulmate. She loved you more than everyone else in this world. Wait. What? Issei's eye widened in shock at the cloak figure's confession. He tried to move out of the magic circle to figure out what the cloak figure was talking about, but couldn't move at all. He was frozen in place. But not only Gunmare, but the other girls like Asia Argento, Akeno Himejima, Kaneko Taoju, Zenobia Quarta, Irina Hyoudou, and Ravel Phoenix. All of them loved you as much as Rias, the cloak figure continued. None of them took you for granted or used you for personal gain. It's shame though that all those women are too selfish and cruel to figure out the truth about you. The truth? Issei pondered. What is he talking about? Wait a minute, didn't he said that Butchu actually loved me? Not only her, but Asia, Akeno-san, Kaneko-chan, Zenobia, and even Irina and Ravel. Despite Frozen, a single tear of joy went down Issei's cheek. They love me. They really loved me. I could have confessed my love to Butchu a long time ago. Oh god. What have I done? Oh well. I hope you enjoy your new life. The cloak figure said, waving his hand goodbye. Wait a minute. I don't want to go. I want to go back to my world. Please stop. Issei wanted to scream his lungs out if he could have. He would have struggled his way out from the magic circle if possible. But he couldn't do either of them. All he could do was hear the shocking truth and watch the cloak figure waving his hand till the light of the magic circle blinded him. Issei began to have a dream. His dream began with a robed woman scurried through the streets with a newborn baby girl with golden blonde hair and green eyes crying in her arms. She ran up to the front door of the Catholic church, ready to leave her daughter and run off to who nowhere. As she placed her daughter carefully on the doorstep, the robed mother looked at the peaceful sleeping face of her baby girl. The woman gently stroked her child's cheek, expressing the face of hesitation to leave her baby. The mother shed a single tear before she got up, ready to leave her child, but hesitated the moment she heard newborn cried louder the moment she turned around. The woman turned back and took the baby back in her arms and ran back to the dark streets. The scenery changed to a Japanese shrine. Over there, Issei saw a young Japanese girl on her knees, staring speechless at a familiar middle-aged gruff-looking man with black hair, matching beard and a muscular body. Around them are bloody corpses of dead ascetics spread out everywhere. The young Japanese girl's purple eyes got watery as she ran up to the middle-aged gruff-looking man. The middle-aged man crouched down to the girl's height and opened his arms wide and opened. The young Japanese girl entered the warm embrace of the middle-aged man and cried into chest, calling him dad. The scene changed again, where Issei sees images of two cats, one black and the other white, sleeping together in the cold winter night of Japan. Both cats slept together in a cardboard box, shivering to death as a pile of snow buried them. Both cats woke up to the sounds of footsteps heading their way. The black cat stuck her head out from the box and noticed a blonde-haired shrine maiden with warm gentle glow around her. The shrine maiden kneeled down and smiled at the sight of the two cats. The scene changed again for a third time, where Issei imagined a young blonde-hair boy running through snowy forest in the dark night. Chased by men dressed in gas masks and carried rifles, the blonde-hair boy ran as fast as he can to get out till he tripped and was about to land it on the snow, till he caught by 2-meter-old man in his mid-80s, dressed in a priest vestment. The men with rifles and gas mask froze in place in the sight of the 80-year-old man, who looked enraged. The old man put his hand out and began to chant out. His body soon began to emit white holy aura as light gathered at his hand and materialized into a blue blade and a golden-edged broadsword. The gas-masked men panicked and began to open fire at the priest, but only see the bullets to bounce off from the old man's body. The old priest's broadsword soon gathered aura around his sword and swung out a shockwave of its aura directly at the masked men. The next scene Issei saw was nothing more than darkness. A darkness that took shape of a black monstrous giant that was rampaging into mansion-filled pale nobles. Many nobles ran for their lives, but they were quickly seized in place when the black giant's shining red eyes laid its eyes on them. The darkness from the giant spread into the ground and consumed the pale nobles. Everything soon faded into darkness, and the only thing Issei could see were the glowing red eye of the giant, flashing him into beam of red light. Another scene appeared in a ruined suburban town that looked at recently came out from a fire. Two girls dressed in white robes walked through the streets of the ruined town. One of the girls stopped walking when she noticed the carcass of a young boy laying down on the ground with a toy action figure of a superhero in his hands. That same girl kneeled down and grabbed the toy that the young boy held. She began to wail in remorse as she brought the superhero toy to her chest. The other girl walked up to her companion. She placed her hand on her companion's shoulder and also shed tears alongside her. This was the last scene that Issei saw. This scene there was young familiar red-eyed woman alone in the parlor of her home, with her eyes all red. A butler came by, carrying 2 cases of luggage in his arms. The butler moved his lips as if he was speaking, but Issei couldn't hear what the butler was saying. The red-eyed girl understood and got up from her seat. She walked out from the parlor and out of the house, where her disappointed parents and brother were waiting for her with a griffin all saddled up to go. Her mother walked up to her with a pair of scissors in her hands. She passed to the daughter, who sadly accepted it. She grabbed long radiant crimson hair up high and with hand in her other hand, the red-eyed girl snipped off her long crimson hair. Her hair color changed from crimson red into the dirty dark brown the moment she snipped her hair short. Hey, wake up, everything was dark to Issei. He could only heard a vague voice, which belonged to the last person he wanted to see. Wake up already. The voice got louder as darkness faded away. Huh? The darkness that once blinded Issei is now turned into blurry of gray. For a moment Issei couldn't tell what was the gray blob was till his vision cleared up to see the cloudy gray sky. The sky, it looks like it's going to rain soon. Issei thought to himself tiredly, as if he just woke up. Finally, Issei heard the vague voice he heard earlier, but more clear than before from behind. He rolled his head back and saw an upside-down Rainer staring at him impatiently with her arms crossed. "I thought that you'd never will wake up." "Oh crap." Issei immediately jumped back up from the ground he lay on and put his guard up as he turned to face Rainer. "What are you doing here?" "I don't know." Rainer shrugged. "Maybe I'm here just to congratulate you on your success." "Congratulate? What the hell is that supposed to mean?" Issei asked furiously. "Just look around," Rainer proposed. "You'll figure out what I mean." How is Issei cut himself off as he looked around his surrounding. He's back in the park where he was before he gone into Juggernaut Drive and went into the white dimension of the cloaked figure. Or Issei thought it was. Last time he remembered, the grass and flowers was growing on nice good soil and the tree's branches were filled with fall leaves. But now the ground is dried up with no single trace of a single plant growing and the trees all burnt and leafless. After realizing the park became nothing more than a complete dried up dead zone, Issei ran out the park to explore the rest of the town. From the park, Issei ran straight back to Kuo Academy. In matter of seconds, Issei ran out of breath and his feet began to feel sore. He stopped to take a quick break and take a chance to look around his surroundings. The streets were completely deserted with no signs of any humans or animals nearby. He looked around the houses to see majority of them damaged and nearly burned to the ground. His stomach began growling and searched for food in all the houses he visited. Most of the food in the kitchens he found were destroyed in the fire, while the others that survived the fire were either burned or too spoiled to eat. He eventually went to a convenience store nearby his house, where he found some canned food that did survive the fire, which he also assumed that it wasn't spoiled. He went over the counter and grabbed some bags and grabbed all the canned food he could and headed straight back to his home. By the time he reached his home, he noticed that his house was the way it was originally, back to its regular 2-story size, and much to his surprise, intact. He rushed in, hoping that his parents are in there perchance, that survived this unexplained horrendous incident that happened in Kuo town. Issei dropped his bags at the porch of his home and ran straight inside his home. "Mom? Dad?" Issei cried out as he entered the living room just to see no one there. Judging from all the dust gathered all over the floor and the furniture and the cobwebs on every corner of the living room, no one has living in his house for months now. No. They got it to be here. They just have to. Issei ran upstairs, directly to his parents' room. He opened the door just to see only nothing more than his parents' bed, the dresser, and drawer, all dusty as if they'd been untouched for a long time. No. I won't allow myself to believe it. Issei left his parents' room and checked out the other rooms. There couldn't be no one in every room. Damn it, where are they? Issei asked as he entered his room and lay on his bed. "Rainer, what happened?" Issei asked, turning back at Rainer. "How did Kuo town end up like this? Why is my house the only one intact? Did you have something to do with this?" Rainer's lips curved into a satisfied smirk. "Oh Ice-kun, as much I would gladly take credit for taking away your beloved town, I regrettably have to inform you that all of this wasn't my doing. Instead it was all of yours." "Mine?" The memories of meeting the mysterious figure flashed into Issei's mind. He remembered the offer he made with the cloak figure gave him and remembered the world he desired. But what struck him the most was none other than what the cloak figure telling him about how Rias and the other girls genuinely loving him. "Oh God," Issei said, covering his face with his hands. "What have I done?" "You fucked up, that's what." Rainer chided coldly. "You should have known this was some sort of trap. That cloaked figure was shady from the start and yet you allowed yourself to fall into his hands." She was right. Issei couldn't deny it. The cloaked figure was suspicious from the moment he saw him. He should have known better, but he didn't. He wasn't thinking straight. He was demented and weak. In his state, he could have been easily manipulated. He wouldn't have been like if Rainer didn't and it hit him. He looked Rainer with his widen in realization. You have something to do with this," Issei accused loudly. He rushed over to the Rainer, cornering her into the door. "You planned this all along. Didn't you and that cloaked figure were in cahoots to mess with me." Despite the situation she was in, Rainer was unfazed and nonchalant, like she wasn't afraid of Issei. Her smirk changed to a solemn frown as she narrowed her eyes. "You're right. It was too coincidental for me to show up and mess up with your mind right before that cloaked man appeared. It was flawless and the timing couldn't be any better, but there is one problem. I have never met that cloaked man in my life and today was the first time I've ever saw him." Hearing that made Issei more distraught than before. He backed away from Rainer, wondering either or not she was lying or not. Issei could easily told himself that Rainer was lying, but she knew her long enough to tell whether or not she was liar or not. If she was telling the truth then, how in the world is she still here? Issei became terrified from the inside. He was too afraid to show his emotion to Rainer, who's still looking at him with her solemn expression. This world was altered, right? Everyone's fate must have changed because I should have remained dead, even Rainer's. So why does it appear that she from the original reality that I came from? You know it's unhealthy for your head if you think too much. Issei cringed by the sound of Rainer's voice. Without Issei realizing it, Rainer stood right in front of him, with their faces only inches away from one another. Rainer expressed her smug look again, but appearing more vile than ever. Is something bothering you perchance? Are you confused why someone like myself, who's from your original reality, is right here in front of you with my original memories intact? Issei felt a freezing chill running down his spine. What are you? Issei asked, stuttering to get his words out. I've been dying for you to finally ask me that. Rainer wrapped her arms around Issei's neck as she leaned her lips closer to Issei's ears. Now it's the time to finally tell you, my beloved Ice-kun. To tell you the truth, I'm none other than. Is there anyone here? Issei shuddered fretfully from hearing the new voice coming from downstairs. Hearing the voice literally gave a wake-up call, like it was as if he just snapped out from a long trance or waking up from a bad nightmare. Rainer was no longer in his room, and Issei was all alone with his body all sweaty and his heart was beating rapidly like never before. What just happened? Issei wondered, looking around his room. Rainer was here just a second ago, but now, I mean you no harm. So please come out. The voice from downstairs pleaded. Issei shook his head, trying to clear his mind from Rainer, and headed out from his room. He rushed downstairs and towards the living room, where he noticed the back of a long-haired person. The person turned around to reveal a beautiful woman with long black hair dressed in rag clothes, looking completely filthy. She turned around, she looked relieved to see Issei and ran up to him. Oh thank God. She cried, clinging on Issei and crying onto his chest. I thought I would never anyone who would come here since the war started. Or? Issei thought. The first thing that came into his mind was none other than Kakabiel, the fallen angel who tried to create the war between the church, the Grigori, and the devils. He tried to instigate the war between the three factions by stealing the Excalibur fragments from the church and brought them to the Kuo town, where it was under the territory of Rias and Sona, siblings of the current mass. Wait a minute, don't tell me that. Issei pulled the girdle from his chest. You said there was a war, right? Please tell me what exactly just happened. You don't know. The girl asked, puzzled, questioning either or not Issei was lying. No, Issei assured her. Let's just say that I just woke up from a long coma. Growled. Both Issei and the ragged girl's stomach growled in unison. Both of them blushed in embarrassment and stayed in silence till the girl broke it by giggling. Issei then broke into laughter as well. Sorry. Both of them said in unison. Sorry, I haven't eaten all day. Issei said, scratching the back of my head. Yeah, I haven't eaten for days. The girl informed him innocently. Don't worry, Issei said, heading to the front door to retrieve the bag of canned food he left at the porch. I've brought some food from. Issei quickly cut himself off as he felt something was very wrong. But there was a loud ringing in Issei's head. The sense of apprehension came into Issei's mind as he thought back to what the girl just said to him. Yeah, I haven't eaten for days. How could that be? The kitchens in the houses Issei has visited looked untouched. In every kitchen he checked, the food was untouched and spoiled. And the convenience store he visited by was filled with food that nobody laid hands on. So why did she said that she haven't for days then? What's wrong? The girl asked. The way she spoke was sweet, but Issei could easily tell there was a hint of spiteful in her tone. Aren't we going to eat? Issei's back shuddered, too scared to look back now as heard disturbing noises from behind. The ringing in Issei's head started send messages to Issei's body to run. Inadvertently, Issei's body moved on its own and ran out of the house like his life depended on it. Hey, where are you going? From behind, Issei could hear the sound of a punch that went through the walls of his house. Wait for me. Issei glanced back to see a hand out tearing through the wall of his house. The hand pulled itself in and monstrous creature came out. The creature took form of a naked black hair woman with voluptuous figure, but her lower body was gigantic and beastly with 4 legs, each having sharp claws and a snake as a tail. Her overall appearance was reminiscent to that of a centaur. Her face changed with bearing piranha-like teeth, pointed ears, and black sclera in place of the usual white. My God. She looks a lot like Visor. The appearance of the black-haired girl did look a lot of Visor. The only difference between the two is that Visor had white hair and the one he's being chased by has her front legs featuring humanoid hands with red claws, the same color as her sharp nails, and her stomach featuring a gap with teeth, which appeared to be used to devour her prey. Here comes Visor. The monstrous girl, now going by deceased Stray's devil's name, leaped high into the air. She jumped so high that she leaped over Issei and landed a few feet away in front of him. Shit. The ground shook violently when Visor landed, causing Issei to stumble back and fell headfirst into the pavement of the road. He placed his hands on the back of his head as he curried himself into ball. God. It hurts. Why does it hurt so much? You monster. Visor curled her fingers together into a fist and slammed her fist straight at Issei. Issei reacted right away and crawled back to dodge her punch, which hit straight to the ground. How dare you abandon a poor, starving, lonely girl. And they called me a monster. I can't take this anymore. Issei stood up and leaped back to make some distance between him and Visor. I need to end this quickly before I become her lunch. Issei positioned himself into his battle stance, ready to summon his sacred gear. Here goes nothing. Come forth. Boosted gear. With his left hand raised up high, posing like a superhero, Issei chant out his boosted gear. A few seconds passed and nothing happened. Usually whenever Issei called out his sacred gear, a light appeared on his entire forearm and his red dragon claw-like gauntlet appeared. But this time it didn't show up. What the hell? Why isn't the boosted gear coming out? Are you sure you want to live in that kind of world? The consequences of having that kind of world will personally affect your physical conditions greatly. Once I snapped my finger, there is no going back. The words of the cloak figures echoed in Issei's mind. Those were the words that the cloak figure stole him directly after Issei told him what world he desired. If the world Issei desired where he wasn't reincarnated by Rias, then Issei put his left hand down and placed it and his right hand all over his body. All of the color faded from his face as he felt nothing more than scrawny arms and bland, out-of-shape body. Issei no longer possesses a muscular, in-shape body that he took 6 months to obtain. Then it hit him. The reason why he was out of breath so quickly. Or why his legs were so sore. It also explained how much pain the back of his head. It was because he was completely human again. It must been what the cloaked figure meant by when he said that the reality he was entering was going to affect his physical condition. Wait a second, if I lived in a world where I don't get reincarnated into a devil, then Issei looked down at his left hand, where the boosted gear usually materialized at. Then could it mean that I'm no longer the Securitate too? The idea of him no longer possessing the boosted gear and being the Securitate is plausible. If Issei never got reincarnated by Rias, he would have been left for dead and the boosted gear would have gone to its next host. That would have been the case if Issei did have died, but what about him now? Does he no longer have his mid-class longiness, or is he just too weak to summon it? Wahaha. Visor laughed scornfully. You really had me going for a moment there. I really did thought you had a sacred gear for a moment there. But you're just an ordinary human like the rest of the corpses I just ate. Corpses? Ate. Was she the reason why this town is a complete ghost town? Issei wondered. Did this Visor eat everyone? Now then. Let me feast on your flesh and bones. Visor placed her hands on his breasts and began to rub them without any shame. Tiny magic circles appeared directly at the nipples as began to be squirted out from them. The acid spread around Issei, cornering with no room to escape from Visor. Shit. Issei thought, unsure what to do. The gap is too much for Issei to jump over. He can face off Visor head on either. Am I really going to die here? Thanks for the meal. Visor opened her stomach's mouth and summoned a spear on each hand. She leaped forward, ready to dine on her scrawny meal, till a spear of light appeared out of nowhere and pierced right through Visor's head. Gwa. Visor screeched out as she slowly dissolved into dust. Issei, who watched the whole thing unfolded, opened his jaw, completely dazed and petrified. He wasn't sure what just happened. The first thing Issei did was turn to the direction where the spear of light came from. He looked up in the sky and became stupefied at the sight in front of them. No way, Issei muttered, unsure if he fully processed of what he's currently seeing. In the sky, Issei watched a man dressed in red dragon-like armor with an uncanny appearance of the boosted gear's scale mail descending into the ground. When the man with scale mail armor landed on the ground disappeared, most of the armor disappeared, except for a gauntlet on the man's left forearm. The man under the red armor had the appearance of a young Irish man with messy black hair and beautiful emerald green eyes. The Irishman wore a long grey-sleeved shirt with an open leather jacket on top, black jeans with a utility belt strapped around his waist, and tall brown boots that came all the way to his knees. Greetings, the Irishman said in a peaceful manner. I mean you no harm. My name is Lula Gifs, the descendant of the legendary Celtic god La, and I'm also this generation's Red Dragon Emperor. End of the here. So that's it for today's video guys. Before you go, just like the video and share it with your friends. Bye.